Guys, we're live. I'm also recording as well.
Hello.
So how are things going at Asads? You guys are doing such amazing work. How is it coming along?
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're welcome. We have Glory Online. We have Chinazon Mary. We have Praise Gabi. I hope I got that pronunciation right. You're very much welcome. Welcome to Asad's free mental health training. And today's topic is boundaries and positive allyship. So you're all very much welcome. We have Chinwe with us. Chinwe, you're welcome. So if you all don't mind, please let's all turn on our videos so we can just say a quick hello. And then you can now turn your videos back off. Please, please, please. If you can hear me, everybody, please just turn on your videos so we can say a quick hello to each other. Abdul Latif, you're welcome. So we would stay for, let's say, about 5 minutes while we have more of our participants joining before we kickstart officially. Okay, Praise says she's in a noisy place, it's fine. Please, if you're in a convenient place, you can turn on your video so we can say a quick hello to ourselves and then you can turn it back off. Our very own Funke is here, Dari is here, and our guest, she's here with us as well. Hello, Funke, I can see your video. Raymond, can we see you?
Hi, everybody.
Hello. I love your smile, Funke, by the way. Oh, I caught it. Raymond, can we see you? Chinazom, can we see you? Chinwe, can we see you if you don't mind? Precious Okulu, you're welcome. Can we see you, please? Welcome. Today's session promises to be enlightening. So please let's share the link, share to your WhatsApp status, share to story, share to your Instagram stories, and let's get as many people and as much as possible to join us because today's topic is a really interesting one. Guest is prepared to throw a lot of light in that topic. Can everybody hear me? Four more minutes. Let's wait for.
Yes, you can.
So let's wait for 4 more minutes for other participants to join us, and then we can kickstart today's training. The full Esther James, you're welcome. Welcome, Esther. If you don't mind, you can turn on your video 30 seconds and just say hello. Mofejesu, you're welcome. Oluwatobiloba, you're welcome. So guys, while you're here, you can just do something real quick. Share the registration link because every participant must register. Please do not share your login details, but instead share the registration link to your WhatsApp status, to your Instagram and Facebook stories, so that more people can join in. And if there's anybody on your mind that you think would be a great beneficiary of today's event, you can just send them the link directly. If you have a friend or a contact, just somebody that just pops into your mind, like, I think this person will like this topic, please send them a link directly. Three more minutes and then we kickstart. So at 2:10, we'll start today's training in full. And while we are waiting, please get your writing materials. Yes, please get your writing materials set because today's session is going to be thorough and truly enlightening. I have mine set already. Yes. So please get your writing material set. If it's going to be on your phone or your notepad or jotter or biro, just get a writing material because, as they say, bluntest pen is sharper than the sharpest memory. So what you write down, you can always make reference to it from time to time. And not just for yourself, but for someone else. You can say, I think I learned about this topic. And maybe if you happen to forget it, you can always make reference back to where you took your jottings. 2 more minutes and we can start. Mushud, you're welcome. Ayola, you're welcome. Mushud, you're welcome. If you don't mind, please turn on your video so we can say hello to you for just 30 seconds. Might not even been up to. Today's session is going to be awesome. And this is a free mental health training organized by Asads. And today's topic is boundaries and positive allyship. We hear the word boundaries. I set my boundaries. I mean, if you are around certain kind of people, you must have heard them use that word a lot. Today, we're going to be learning about it in detail, how it relates to our mental health. And you know, this topic of mental health now than ever before, it's been a topic that is been talked the most. It's been talked about the most. And the reason is because, of course, there's so many reasons backing that. You can see that the situation of things now is not as it used to be before. And topics like mental health issues were topics that people used to shy away from in the past. But in this era of light and technology and everything, mental health is a topic that is brought to the surface and it's been talked about a whole lot. So Asads is doing his part and they organize this training for everyone and it's free. So if there's anybody you know that will benefit from this, please send them a link directly in their DM as we start now. So I would want somebody to give us an opening prayer. It's the first thing on our list and it is what we do at Asads. We always start and end with a prayer. So anybody led, please, you can signify by raising your hands, and please give us an opening prayer. So who is going to go for us? Or I should nominate someone. Esther James. You're the first name on my mind. Hello, Esther, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, please give us an opening prayer.
Father, in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Heavenly Father, we thank you. We appreciate you. We thank you for this moment. May your name be highly exalted, Lord, in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Commence the commencement of this meeting to your hands, Lord. Father, Lord, take absolute control. At the end of everything, Jesus' mighty name.
Amen. Thank you so much, Esther James. That was a wonderful opening prayer. If you're new to Asads, or if this is your first time joining any session that has been organized by Asads before, I'm sure you've been wondering what the word Asads mean, ASADS. Well, Asads is short for Anti-Suicide and Depression Squad. And you would learn more about Asads in a short while. But to do that, we will be having the founder of Asads is a vibrant young man. I mean, there are so many things to say about him. If I say I should read his full profile, trust me, guys, we would stay here till tomorrow and I would still be talking about our founder. But a few things you might want to know about him. He is a Nigerian lawyer, yes, and he's a mental health advocate. He's a humanitarian. He's a project manager that is based in Nigeria. He is the founder of Executives Helping Initiative and the Anti-Suicide and Depression Squad, which is a subgroup of the Executives Helping Initiative. His name is Dari Timothy Emmanuel Ashobele. A round of applause, please. Let's make welcome the founder of Asads. You can unmute yourselves and just make him welcome.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, so welcome everyone. Just like Gabriela mentioned, my name is Dara Sobela, Nigerian from Kogi State. Also, it's a privilege to be here, and I'm also looking forward to the session to also learn. Asad started in 2017. One of the reasons why I decided to start Asad was from a personal journey. So I used to be suicidal and depressed. I'm sure a lot of you will feel like, oh, that's not possible, right? So, and I know what it feels like to be in that darkness where you don't think you can be creative or be able to come out of it. And so I just felt like, you know what, I just want to start something to help other people as well, right? But to be honest, it wasn't an easy process. I know my friends were dragging me out, my sisters, but it just wasn't working, right? So I was able to come out of it through spiritual means. For me, it was just by the grace of God. And so that's just the foundation of everything that I do. And said, you know what, I want to help other people to be able to get clarity and also be able to, connect with them as well. So since December 2017, we started our journey. And so basically in Asads, we have about 4 WhatsApp forums where we have different people from all over the world. The essence of the WhatsApp forum is to have mental health conversations, to be able to educate people so that people can get self-help tips on how to help themselves when dealing with mental health related issues. We also have different activities and programs. We have a team called the Asad Listeners, which are just a group of people that are that have been trained. You can call them mental health first aiders, right? Some of them are on this call. During the breakout session, we'll get to meet some of them just to be able to help people as well. We also have a list of programs, as you guys will find out if you follow us on our social media platforms. So we've decided that every 4th Saturday of the month, we're going to have free mental health training for as many people as possible. Every last Saturday of the month, we have a support group, like a small support group. We also have other activities that are coming up as well. So I just want to encourage you that, guys, please, there's a global problem when it comes to mental health, right? In as much as I'm a Christian, a lot of times we sort of spiritualize mental health issues. But aside from that, at Asads, we've recognized the problem. We realized that we're about 250 million in Nigeria. We barely have up to 1,000 professional therapists. Now, even if we had this 1,000, right, it means one person has to listen to about 250,000 people, which is impossible, which is a lot. So idea is to see how we can train people, educate people as much as possible. You don't even have to volunteer with Asads, right? Our goal is just like, I believe that if you know better, you'll be able to do better. So please pay attention to this session. Invite your friends. We're currently live on YouTube. Invite your loved ones and just have a nice time as well. So you can also check the chat box. Some of our communications team will drop our social media handles. A feedback form will also be dropped at the end of the session in case you want to join us or join the team. So thank you very much and do have a wonderful time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dari. Thank you so much. So if you're just joining us, that was a brief introduction about Asads given to us by the founder himself, Mr. Dari Ashobele. If you're just joining us, I can see some persons just joined in now. You're very much welcome. This is a free mental health training organized by Asads. Asads is short for Anti-Suicide and Depression Squad. And today's topic is boundaries and positive allyship. If those words seem strange to you, fret not, because we have an amazing speaker right here with us who is going to break down the topic to the smallest particle, to the smallest proton or atom. Let me leave it as an atom. She's going to break it down to us, and trust me, at the end of today's session, you'll be leaving with so much light. We are going into the main deal of the day, but before we do that, I want us to take let's just say take 30 seconds and just share this link, share it on your WhatsApp, share it on your Instagram, share it on your Facebook. And if anybody comes into mind that you think you would love to be a participant in this, please send a link to them directly. And while you do that, whatever questions that come to your mind already, because I know some of us have questions even before the session starts, whatever questions that you have, please send them to me directly. I am Gabriela Gabriel. So once you check the chat, you click on when you click on it, it's going to give you a drop down of names. So just look for the name that looks like the same thing, Gabriela Gabriel, the masculine and the feminine form of it, me directly. And while our speaker gets into a session, whatever questions you have, you can write them down. At the end of her session, we will have a question and answer. Ask your questions directly. But if you don't want to do that, you can also send your questions directly to me at Gabriela Gabriel. Can everybody hear me? Okay. So it's time. To take us on this session, we will be having an amazing young woman. She is a communications professional. She's so many things, so sit back as I run you through her amazing profile. She's a communications professional. She's a brand strategist. She's a mental health advocate. She holds a master's degree in psychology from Nottingham Trent University, and she's an accredited member of the British Psychological Society. She's a trustee at Terence Higgins Trust, and beyond this, she serves as the branding and communications personnel at the Birmingham Global Shapers, which is an initiative of the World Economic Forum. She's also the founder of the YOMI, which is a thriving community based on empowering individuals to build authentic lives. In the past, her professional marketing experience has led her to work with various brands and stakeholders. Yomi is passionate about psychosocial well-being and demystifying mental health conditions. Trust me, she's here to demystify this topic, boundaries and positive allyship. I'm not done yet. I'm still introducing her. And she has other areas of focus, and they include mental health, employability, African storytelling, LGBT plus Q rights, and multicultural cuisine, and lastly, diversity and inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, with a clapping ovation, if you can, or you can react through if you're using a system, you should have a reaction icon there where you can react with any emoji. You can smile, you can clap. Please make welcome our guest for today, none other than Yomi Olushule. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. That was a lot.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Well done, Dari and the entire Asads team. You guys do such great work, and it's amazing how much you've accomplished since 2017. I feel like you think you know your friends, and then you realize you don't really know your friends. Like, I didn't know Dari was from Kogi. I didn't know Dari was a lawyer.
Oh,
I didn't know Dari was a project manager. I'm like, so thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Gabriela, for anchoring this session. That was very good. Thank you to the Asads team. Well done. I follow you all online. I've done a few collaborations and with your team, and you all, I'm very impressed and I'm very humbled by your commitment to mental health and to empowering Nigerians, Black people, and the African region. It's not easy work, it's heavy work. So well done. Thank you so much. I guess we will just jump right into the session. So can we share the slides so I can start? I would be speaking on boundaries and positive allyship in the context of mental health and mental well-being. I hope you all enjoyed the session. Please feel free to participate, ask questions. I think it's important to note that while I have experience in the field, I am not perfect. I'm still, as much as I'm facilitating this session, I'm still learning from you. I hope you learn from me. I also want to learn from you. I want to get new insight. So instead of it just being me going on and rambling for hours, for minutes, for seconds, instead of it just being me going on and talking, I would like us to contribute, to share, because knowledge is power. And yes, so the topic, boundaries and positive allyship. Next slide, please. Today, Dari is usually the CEO of Asads, but today is like my PA. Dari, next slide, please. So Gabriela has already done the introduction. I don't think I need to do it anymore, but I'm Yomi. That's the bottom line, and I'm passionate about this. In summary, I like to help people, and I'm very big on, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. And I'm Yomi, Nigerian. I'm from Kogi too. I'm very passionate about empowering people and developing our communal mental health. Next slide, please. Today, these are the focus areas we'll be talking about. We've already, Gabriela has done a very beautiful introduction. I don't think I need to go over that. Then we will be discussing what are boundaries, what do boundaries mean, why are boundaries important, what are the different types of boundaries, and then how can we build and preserve better boundaries. Then we'll also be talking, so the core focus would be the boundary aspect, because it's quite broad. And then we'll speak on allyship, but boundaries will take precedence, and then a bit about me and how you can get in touch with me and any questions you might have. Next slide, please. Dari. I'm enjoying this. Can we go back? Yes. So what words or phrases comes to your mind when you hear the word boundaries? Please write it in the comments. When you hear the word boundaries, what pops up in your head? What do boundaries mean to you? Please write it in the comments. Let's take 1 minute to do that, so that Yeah. A fence, interesting. Having a limit, I like that. Any other person? We have like 40 more seconds. Space, limits. Okay. Okay, any other person, a guide, a drawn line. I like that. I like that. Limits for protection. Okay, so everybody, I would assume that we all have a rough, because these are very good responses. So we all have a rough idea of what boundaries are, and yes, a boundary is a fence between you and somebody else. A boundary is a line, it's a limit, is, that's what a boundary is. So next slide, please. What are boundaries? They are the limits, like someone said, and the rules we set for ourselves within relationships. And then a person with healthy boundaries can say no to others when they want to, but they are also comfortable opening themselves up to intimacy and close relationships. So personal boundaries are where we draw the line with people. We set them within relationships, and in every interpersonal relationship you have, it's important to say, what are my limits with this person? What is allowed, what is not allowed, what is okay, what is not okay. And boundaries are a form of self-care. They are a form of self-preservation. They are not negative. They don't have a negative connotation. And somebody with healthy boundaries knows when to say no, when to say this isn't okay, when to say I'm not accepting of this. And then we also have people who have rigid boundaries. They keep everybody far away from them. It's very difficult for people to, access them on that emotional and deep level. Meanwhile, there are people who have porous boundaries, and that one is I'm assuming a lot of us here are Nigerian. So porous boundaries is like anywhere belle face, anybody can do anything, anybody can walk all over you, you don't care, it's just like whatever. But then I would share a personal experience. Before I started learning about boundaries and discovering like what personal boundaries are, I felt like I could just take anything from anybody. I could exhaust myself. I felt like the ultimate form of love, the ultimate form of friendship was taking as much as I could, not telling people where to draw the line, not, having that self-respect for myself to say this isn't okay, this is not appropriate. So at work, we need you to work till 10 p.m., even though my closing time is 5 p.m. and I know it's important for me to rest and take care of myself. I'll be like, okay, no problem. My friend is doing this. I know that I don't really like it. It doesn't make me comfortable. Okay, no problem. And then everybody is happy. That's what I came to realize. Everybody is happy, but Yomi is not happy. Everybody is okay because I've exhausted myself. I've been extremely self-sacrificial. I've laid down for everybody to walk, but I'm not happy. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know why. And I think I was also getting to the point where I would go to, it's now when I'm extremely frustrated that I will start like declaring my boundaries, and it will be more confrontational than respectful, like, don't talk to me anymore. So I'm like, this isn't healthy. That's why boundaries are important, and that's why we're having this conversation, to know how to go about this, what they are, and the types of boundaries that are involved. So, and it's important to say that someone crossing your boundaries deliberately, when you've stated them over and over, it's the same as emotional, verbal, or physical abuse, because I understand that sometimes we think abuse exists in a certain form. So if somebody isn't hitting you, they're not necessarily abusing you, but your friends can abuse you, your family can abuse you, your colleagues can abuse you when they're not respecting your boundaries. Next slide, please. I touched on this earlier, but why are boundaries important? First of all, self-care. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself first. In work, in our personal relationships, when we don't have boundaries, they lead to resentment, anger, and burnout. If you don't have boundaries at work with your co-workers, with your boss, you're taking on like all the work, you're taking on every single thing. At some point, you're going to become very angry, you're going to become very resentful, and you might not even be able to exactly communicate why you are upset. Imagine working till late every single day. You think your boss is happy because the job is getting done and everything, but at some point you realize you're drained, you're burning out. And then autonomy. When you have boundaries, you make decisions based on what is good for you, not just what is good for every other person. And this self-autonomy is a very crucial part of self-care, because now with boundaries, you're not just saying, oh, if I stay up late to talk to my friend for hours, they will be happy. Meanwhile, I'm not sleeping well. Or, okay, this person likes to yell when they're upset. So if I take them yelling, they'll feel like they've released the negative emotions. It's also understanding that, does this work for me too? Is it okay to be yelled at? Is it okay to, and sometimes it's not even the negative things that people do, it's just the things you can't tolerate. And then boundaries also create trust, and they help to build healthy relationships. And some people might not like it, but they would respect you for standing up for what you believe in. So, like when we think about healthy relationships, for me, for example, one of my boundaries in relationships is I need personal time. And not just in the context of romantic relationships, in friendships, I need time to just be alone, to think, to process. Sometimes I might need the whole day. Sometimes I might need a few hours. And that way, I'm building a healthy relationship when I'm able to communicate this and have that with myself and with other people, because you come to the point of self-awareness where you realize that if I'm on it all day, if I'm constantly talking, constantly interacting with people, I personally feel drained. I need time to recuperate. I need time to take care of myself. So, yes, having that, some people are not comfortable. They're like, oh, why do you need this time for yourself? Why can't I just access you anytime? But no, you can't. And people might not agree with it, but they would respect it. And boundaries also create safety in relationship, because when people respect your privacy, when they respect your stance on certain things, you will definitely feel heard, validated, and appreciated, because that way you're not getting taken for granted from your loved ones. For example, maybe you have a mother-in-law that is quite overbearing for you. She might not like the way she might not like the fact that, oh, I cannot just barge into your house anytime and sleep over. But then she would respect it, and you understand that if I communicate with the people around me, they would understand where I'm coming from and where I stand. So there's that safety, there's that security in knowing that even if I change my mind on certain things or I change my approach, the people around me, my loved ones, would respect it. Next slide, please. Please go back. Types of boundaries. Does anybody have any idea at all of like the types of boundaries? Like, what are the limits you set for yourself with others, at work, with your friends? Just, drop like a few in the comments. 1 minute, please. Okay, physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, no work calls after 8 p.m. That's very valid. Interrelational boundaries, I like that. Does anybody else have, any idea of what do you say to people? What do you do to people? What are some things you don't, I like that one, not a party to expensive and abusive jokes, work boundaries. Yes, so I need some time away. I like that. Next slide, please. Thank you all for sharing. So there are different types of boundaries. What have I pressed? There are different types of boundaries. We have sexual boundaries. Yeah, don't force me to take alcohol. I like that one because, yeah, if I don't want to take alcohol, I don't want to take alcohol. So we have different types of boundaries: sexual boundaries, physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, material and financial boundaries, intellectual boundaries, time boundaries, and then there are non-negotiable boundaries. So what are sexual boundaries? All over the world, we have so many sex educators, we have so many people discussing and having conversations around consent, around what consent means and what it does not mean. And sexual boundaries are very important, like what are communication patterns, what are my hard and my soft limits, what does safety look like to me, and all of that. Like, okay, if I say no means no, if I constantly if I tell somebody no sexually and they're like, oh, but that's a boundary for me, I don't like that, I need to communicate it. And then physical boundaries refer to personal space and physical touch. I deliberately separated sexual boundaries from physical boundaries because I don't want to blur the line in romantic or sexual relationships. It's important to have boundaries and to be clear on them. Physical boundaries include what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Like at work, it's not appropriate, for example, for maybe my colleague to be hugging me, or why somebody trying to peck me, what are the physical boundaries? And even when somebody touches you when you don't want to be touched, not even sexually, but can you please not do this? And the person is still doing that, they are violating your boundaries. Another one is maybe going through somebody's phone. That's very inappropriate, and you have to set your boundaries with that. For some partners and for some people, for some friends, it's okay. They go through each other's phone. They understand that and they're cool with it. But if you're a type of person that is like, no, this isn't okay for me, it's important to set the tone and be clear on it. Like, you can't go through my personal stuff. You can't go through my essentials. You have your things, I have my things. If you want to do this, maybe go through my things. Ask quick, let me give you permission. Let me say you can do this. Then emotional boundaries involve what type of boundaries regarding what am I comfortable with sharing, what am I not comfortable with sharing. Like I mentioned earlier, when I need to take time to myself and, the capacity for listening to and supporting others, like where do I draw the limits with my family, with my friends? And like I mentioned earlier, every single day I'm learning new things. So, for example, one emotional boundary I'm now setting is knowing when to, encourage my friends, encourage people in my community that, you know what, I think you might need to talk to a therapist, you might need to talk to a psychologist, you might need to talk to a professional, because in some conversations, I'll find that I'm consistently going over the same topics, I'm consistently drained. And it's like, okay, I need to set emotional boundaries about how much I'm willing to take on from people, what I'm willing to share and what I'm not willing to share or talk about. Because sometimes we feel, another one might just be like at work. Okay, am I the type of person that brings my work life into my personal life into my work life? Are there two separate worlds? It's important to be clear on that. Is everybody following? Can you do the thumbs up in Zoom? I think you can give reactions. So if you're following, just like send me a thumbs up. I don't want to feel like I'm just going on and on and on and on and on.
The words are deep now, so everybody is paying attention. That's why.
I'm trying to make sure that we're engaged. I'll go pause, see that we're taking things in. Then material and financial boundaries are talking about money and possessions, because especially in the community we come from, we come from the African community, and a lot of us are very used to sharing things, which is good. We're used to community, but even in that, it's important to have boundaries, because not having boundaries in such situations can get us into trouble. For example, there's something called the black tax. I don't know if anybody has heard about it, where for some people, their families are like, oh, you need to pay for this, you need to pay for that, you know. And at the end of the day, you find that I'm paying so many bills, but I have nothing. I don't have any savings. I don't have any investments. I don't have any money. It could be your car. Like, maybe it's okay to use my car on the weekends because, you know, I don't really use it, but on weekdays I go to work. So setting those boundaries with your loved ones, with people in your environment, like, this is okay for me, this is not okay for me, these are my things, this is how I would prefer for it to be used. And then intellectual boundaries. I'm sure that a lot of us are very familiar with the others, but intellectual boundary is not something that is very popular, but it's important. Intellectual boundaries are the type of boundaries we set that relate to our thoughts and our ideas, and the things that we align with and the things that we don't align with. All of us are very separate human beings. We have very separate cultural, family backgrounds. We've had very unique and distinct experiences in life. So the way we approach certain things, or the way we think about certain things, are different. And so it's important to think about intellectual boundaries. For example, everybody that knows me that knows that I don't tolerate what's it called? I don't tolerate racism, tribalism, religious, what's that thing called, where people hate other people from other religions, or want to cause them harm, homophobia. I'm very clear on it. I think that whether I choose to participate or something or not, I don't need to put people down who participate in it. So for example, if I'm sharing my thoughts or ideas on that, like, you know, it's not good to be tribalistic, and somebody is being disrespectful or putting me down, then that's not okay. And it's important to have a boundary on communication. You can say, oh, me and this person, the person seems cool, but we don't align on so and so. So what's important is we can be cordial, but I don't want to pursue a deep relationship. Or can we communicate? Can I express my ideas in a safe place? And there are sometimes that you have a mindset on something and somebody changes your mindset or improves how you see something. I remember, like, some months ago, I was complaining to Dari about something from my own perspective. And Dari said, I hear you, I see what you've said, but how about looking at it this way? It was a very fulfilling and respectful conversation. So what I'm trying to say is that intellectual boundaries are very important, how we communicate with others, when it's a good time to discuss something or when it's not a good time to discuss certain things. They are all boundaries we should set, and they are important. Like, for some of us, the way we start our morning sets the tone of our day. So am I willing to talk about sad things in the morning, or things that can potentially make me feel down and dampen my mood? No. Maybe I prefer to create a time block somewhere around lunch or in the evening when I'm done with my core work to discuss certain things. And yeah, then time boundaries involve how you spend your time, agreeing to do things you don't want to do, and having people waste your time. At work, you can say, okay, oh, my working hours are 8 to 5 p.m. Plus or minus, if there's any work I have to take on, I stop at 6 p.m. Someone wrote in the comments that they stop taking work calls at 8 p.m. That's a boundary they've set. I respond to work in, having those boundaries that protects how you spend your time, because the truth is that there's almost always going to be pressure on our time and on our resources. And sometimes it's not even people that are putting pressure on our time and resources. It's us putting pressure on people's time and their resources. So having boundaries for ourselves and respecting the boundaries of others, like, okay, it's Saturday, somebody is telling me to come and do so and so thing. I don't want to spend my Saturday doing that. Or I can spend it, but I only have 1 hour to give to that. So it's important to have that. And then while we have boundaries, our boundaries usually can be more flexible and more rigid. It's important to emphasize that boundaries are very context driven and they're very social setting driven. For example, there are some contexts where you might be willing to negotiate on certain things, like, okay, first, maybe you say to yourself, my friend is going through a really hard time. So even though I'll ideally not want to be talking about certain things during the morning, I'm willing to negotiate on that because I want to support this person in this way and in this capacity. But, you know, so there are times that it's flexible and our boundaries are different with different people in our lives. For example, at work, if maybe a coworker came to hug you and you're someone who is very strong on physical boundaries, you can be like, no, that's not appropriate. Don't hug me. I'll prefer a handshake. But maybe with your friends and your family, you are more like, oh, very hug, you're not hug averse, you're very warm, so it's important to note that boundaries are very contextual, and but then there are also non-negotiable boundaries, the ones that are absolute deal breakers. So while I can go back and forth on this, maybe I don't like sharing my car. I don't like giving people my car on weekdays because I have things to do with the car. You know that you understand that, oh, somebody really needs it. They have an audition, they have an appointment. So, okay, sure, you can use it. It's not something I would usually do, but within this context, I understand your dynamics. But non-negotiable boundaries, they are like someone in the comments, someone wrote that a boundary is a red line. Non-negotiable boundaries are like reddest line. Like they're like the one you hammer, that this one I cannot take it, this one no, like I can't. So there are things that you have to have in your life to feel safe and to feel happy. So there are things like physical violence, emotional abuse, drug or alcohol use, fidelity, and life-threatening health issues. So like people can say, oh, I'm willing to negotiate in my relationship, I'm willing to compromise, but with like, don't touch me, don't physically assault me, don't put your hands on me, don't, emotionally abuse me. I'm not going to be in a situation where I'm exposed to drug use. So if somebody takes drugs or somebody, that could be your journey, congratulations, but it's not something I'm willing to participate in. And I have 17 more minutes. Next slide, please. So those are non-negotiable boundaries. I spoke too much. A few ways to build and preserve healthy boundaries. Enjoy some self-reflection. Take time for yourself, to know yourself, to understand what you stand for, what makes you comfortable, what makes you uncomfortable. Start small. If you're the type of person that maybe this is your first talk on boundaries, you don't have a lot of boundaries, it's important to not put too many things because that's how you break down. So start small, take it, understand, what's it called? Understand, I'm missing my words. Yes, start small and then introduce more gradually. So evaluate what's working, what's not working, and set them early because that way you're managing people's expectations and they already know what you stand for, what you don't stand for. If not, when you start setting them later in relationships, people can potentially feel like, she's acting brand new, or why is she behaving like this and stuff. So if you can put in boundaries straight away, is very, very crucial. I remember at my former job, one of my boundaries was I don't work late. I do my work. I do my best work. I commit to the role. But after closing, Emma me don't call me. And at first, I experienced some pushback, but then it became a thing in the office. They'll say, you're me on weekends, you can't reach her. And it worked for everybody. So talk. Don't assume anything. Don't think that people automatically read your mind or know what your boundaries are or they are not. So learn to communicate with the people in your life, with your loved ones, with your colleagues. Oh, I appreciate this. I don't appreciate that. And because boundaries can sound like such a strong word, it might seem like you have to be confrontational or you have to be like, boom. No, but they can also be sweet, kind, and lovely conversations, stating and reinstating, things and exploring those dynamics in your community. And then be your biggest champion. Before you can have boundaries, it's important to love yourself and remember that if you have the mindset that I'm worthless and I don't deserve it, you would allow people walk all over you and you'll not be able to stand for anything. But when you have like the understanding that, look, I'm worth it, I'm deserving of self-preservation and respect, then you can request that respect from the people around you. And then recognize and respect the boundaries of others. Is not always about you. While you're setting boundaries, it's also good to understand people's boundaries and respect. Next slide, please. Okay, I think we'll just go to the next slide because I already stated some of these. Yes. So is anybody an ally? Has anybody heard the word ally? And if you have, now no more 1 minute, 30 seconds, just put like what you think allyship or being an ally could mean. What does the word ally mean to you? Team player, cheerleader, support system, friend, partner, support, paddy. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Guy. Someone said guy. Body, brother in arm. Everybody's correct. I think my favorite two are paddy and guy, because being an ally is literally being somebody's paddy, being somebody's guy, regardless of if you are in the same situation or not. Because when people live with mental health conditions, when people have, because sometimes a mental health condition is on the same pedestal as a chronic illness. It's lifelong for some people, and they might not always be able, or have the capacity to go through daily life and still advocate for themselves. So people with mental health conditions do need allies, and we do need paddies, we do need guy, we need friends, supporters, people that are willing to champion the cause and help others. Next slide, please. So you were all right in the comments. A mental health ally is someone who takes action to raise awareness of mental health and challenge stigma. That's who a mental health ally is. Someone who supports, someone who is there, someone who educates themselves, someone who strives to make strategic, important, and constructive change in the world, whether or not they live with a mental health condition. Next slide, please. So how can you be a positive ally? There are different ways you can be a positive ally, and let's get into that. It's okay, Gabriella, I'll soon finish. I'm in trouble. Next slide, please. There are different ways to be a positive ally. One is educating yourself. And because, when people hear like mental illness, it scares them, especially with our culture, with our background, with where we are from. When people hear mental illness, even though the conversations are changing and things are improving, it can still be a bit overwhelming for people. And some people think that it's, if you have maybe a mental illness, that means you're depressed, or that means you have schizophrenia, PTSD, and all that is valid, but they are only parts of mental illness. Mental illness exists on a spectrum, and there are various forms and various layers. So one of the important things as an ally is to how to be an ally, educate yourself, learn, unlearn, say, okay, what does this mean? Understand it, because we cannot support or be allies when we don't understand what we're supporting. And then check on those around you. There's this guy on Twitter, he's Tunde Odi. He does chess in slums, and he's doing such great work. And I think one of my favorite quotes from him is, "We can do great things from a small place." So you don't need to open an NGO, you don't need to open a charity, you don't need to be the head of an organization before you can help others or before you can support others. So sometimes checking in on people is very important, and that's how to be a good ally. Like sometimes people, people, and it's true, mental health does not have a face. It can affect anybody from any culture, race, background. So checking in on those around you, leaving them some kind words, leaving them like, that support, like, I'm here for you, how are you doing, genuinely, just providing that emotional rock is how to be an ally. Listening with empathy. Sometimes people are very scared of judgment and discrimination. Like, in job interviews, people feel like, or at work, if I tell people that I have this condition, would they look at me differently? Would they think I still have capacity to do my work? Would they think I'm crazy? And stigma, in most cases, and there's research to back it, kills more than a lot of mental illnesses in most cases. So talking about their condition might be overwhelming. So it's important to listen with empathy, with kindness, with love. Like, what are you going through? And, finding ways to support them, asking how they can be supported, and, helping them on that journey. And then engaging in conversations around mental health. Like, don't be scared of having the conversations, because the way we will change the world is by having the conversations and creating a global ecosystem where people are vulnerable enough to say, look, I'm not okay. I need to take a step back. I need to, being able to, for people to be able to say, I'm seeing a therapist, I'm seeing a psychologist, I need help, I'm on medications, without people being scared of them or thinking negatively about them. So having these conversations are very important, and they go up from educating yourself, because when you're self-educated, when you attend programs like this one that Asad is running, when you are knowledgeable about certain things, you're now able to educate others. If somebody is saying something that is, discriminatory or negative, you're not fighting them, but you're able to say, oh, why do you think that? Engage in the conversation, change mindsets, change views. It's not going to happen in a day, but allyship is important. And there are so many other ways to be an ally. But as people can see, my time is running. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. That's all. Thank you so much for joining in. These are a few brands I've worked with in different capacities. Nottingham Trent University, the Global Shapers Community under the World Economic Forum, Terence Higgins Trust, Sheraton, I put Sheraton twice, and a few other organizations in areas of branding, mental health advocacy, campaigning, developing strategies, and all that. Next slide, please. So thank you all so much. I hope that I did not run you down with all my talking and you gained something and you learned something. So feel free to ask me any questions, leave your comments and any observations. I don't have monopoly of information. So if anybody—
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Woo! Round of applause for her. Please, you can clap, but through your reaction on your screen there. Thank you so much, Yomi. That was a very, very wonderful session right there. And it was so enlightening. If it was enlightening for you, please just share your reactions. if you're on your screen, you should have a reaction section there. Just click on an emoji or just let us know you enjoy this session. Thank you so much. So if you have a question, please signify by raising your hand. And if you don't want to ask a question directly, you can send it to me. My name is Gabriel. Just send it to me on the chat. And so I can take all the questions together. That was a wonderful session there, Yomi. Thank you so much. Yes, I have a few questions and I took notes while you were talking. So from your session, I see that self-awareness has a role to play in establishing boundaries. Please, you can confirm that to us, or you could throw more light on it.
Yes. Thank you. Self-awareness definitely plays a part in having boundaries, because you can't really have boundaries if you don't know yourself, which is why, as much as it's important to spend time with people and spend time with your loved ones, it's also very important to spend time with yourself. You can become more self-aware through journaling, through meditation, and through educating yourself, through reading books, through knowing what you like, what you don't like, what you can take, what you cannot take. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small. For me, I don't like people shouting at me. It makes me, understanding your triggers, shouting triggers me a lot. So that's like a boundary I set with my loved ones. And yeah, it's just important to spend time with yourself, spend time in nature, read, journal, meditate, and yes, build yourself.
Okay, thank you so much. Self-awareness. I mean, there are people, or there are some persons. Is it some persons? I think it happened to me. I experienced it at some point in my life, to where certain things happen and I get irritated, I get angry. It took me some years before I learned that I should sit down, take time, and question myself that, okay, why does this make you angry every time? Why do you get irritated when this happens? It was in that moment I was able to admit to myself and say, okay, yes, I really don't like this. That's the reason why I react in a certain way. So self-awareness plays a role there for us. Now, there are personality types like the ENFJs. They have a problem with boundaries. Let me say they have weak boundaries, if I can say that. What would you advise? And, certain for some human beings or for some people, at some point in their life, due to, let's say you were the first girl in your house and you were used to doing everything for everybody, you never had time for yourself, or maybe the first son, and then you're just used to giving, doing, even at your own inconvenience. Let's say you experience a scenario where you didn't have to go to school just because your younger ones could go, and you've lived your life for some years, and already you're at that point where you just don't know how to set boundaries. That I could say they have weak people like that, have weak to zero boundaries. What would you advise at that point? Is it a point where they have to seek the help of a therapist? Let me hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, I think that is important to emphasize and re-emphasize that you don't need to live with a mental health condition or a mental illness to see a professional. And if you do, like, seeing a professional is okay. So if you feel like you cannot navigate certain things on your own, or look, I'm trying, but I can't quite figure this out, then it's okay to talk to a professional, to see a therapist. But it's in cases where, like the one you've mentioned, I think having healthy communication and setting the tone with certain people who, because when you self-reflect, you see, oh, this person has actually crossed my boundaries. And sometimes they don't know that they've crossed your boundaries. So having healthy communication is important. If you know that maybe you've never had boundaries, you've just allowed everything to happen, or you do not even recognize you should have boundaries, it's important to start small and go up from there. I was reading somebody on Twitter who said that for him, he feels very drained by family sometimes, and he knows
Wow.
that if, God forbid, something happened to him today,
Mhm.
his family will still stay alive and they'll be okay. So
Wow.
financially, he sets boundaries with them. Like he has a financial budget. So before,
Okay.
if they say we need 1 million, he will
Yeah.
send it. If he doesn't have it, he will go and look for it. But now he sets like a monthly budget, maybe
Budget.
for my family, because I need to have savings and investments.
Yes.
I'm committing 200,000 naira, maybe plus or
Okay.
minus 50K. So that's all I have to give. And it can be difficult at first, but starting small. And also, I think not just switching up on people, because switching up on people can overwhelm them too. Helping them
Okay.
see and understand why you're doing certain things and going on certain journeys is also important. And if people cannot respect your boundaries, or they keep crossing them, or they find them ridiculous, even after you've
Yes.
communicated over and over, then they might not need to be in your life, or you might need to renegotiate your terms of engagement with them
Yeah.
in a way that will be mutually beneficial.
Okay. Thank you. So someone has a question. Is there anything like religious boundaries
Um,
or religion boundary? Yes, religion.
I think that I need more context, like religious boundaries. I would say that, let me try and imply what the person is trying to say. Maybe they're trying to say um, other people putting their religion on them, or maybe you even practice a religion, but you feel overwhelmed by people. I think, yes, there can be such a thing. You can have boundaries around anything in your life or any aspect of your life. They don't have to be limited to the ones that I mentioned. The ones I mentioned are just like the most popular. But with religious boundaries, yes, even in church, in the mosque, you can say, okay, while I'm a Christian, I go to church. I'm not comfortable with, my religious or spiritual leaders being involved in certain aspects of my life. Or, yes, I practice this religion, but I don't have the capacity to commit to going in every single day of the week or every evening. I can give it 1 week. I say 1 week, I can give it a day. I can, volunteer, but I don't want to do certain things. And yes, even financially, in the context of religion, my pastor is asking for my car. I have a boundary. I can't give my
Yeah.
pastor my car. I can pay my offering, I can pay my tithes, but you know, um, I'm a Christian, so I think I can speak more to boundaries in terms of the church. So I'm sorry if I'm not touching on other religions, but that's like where I have the most knowledge. But yes, you can have any aspect of your life that you need to draw a red line, then you can.
Red line. Okay, thank you so much. So the person who asked the religion question, if you are not cleared, you can add more context to that question so you can gain clarity. That's what today's session is about. Another question here for you, Yomi. What do you do to someone who keeps crossing your boundary and you've told them repeatedly? It's more like being a habit. What do you do? How do you handle such a person?
As I stated earlier, you have to renegotiate your terms of engagement.
Mhm.
If I have a friend that is constantly yelling at me, I've told you, I've told you, I've told you again, then maybe we need to take space for a while from each other. We don't hate each other,
Mhm.
but you're triggering me, you're crossing my boundaries, you're overwhelming me. I need space. Maybe you have a family member that is constantly putting you down, embarrassing you, humiliating you. You might, I think with friendship, it can be a bit easier because you can just tell your friend, I need a break from this. But with family, they are your blood, their emotions, their sentiments,
Yeah.
there's all of that. I think, first of all, it comes down to remembering that you're deserving of respect, you're deserving of people acknowledging the things that matter to you. So self-love, having that sense of
Yes.
self-importance and self-respect. Then going
Yes.
down from it, it's important to understand why this boundary matters to you and why you feel very uncomfortable with it not being acknowledged. And then it can be difficult. Like imagine it's your mom or your dad or your sibling that is crossing your boundary. Then it can get more complex and difficult. Maybe you tell your sibling, you're always doing this to me, so I don't like it. And then everybody from your village, your family, they're all calling you. It can be difficult, but it's important to stand your ground in such situations. So you might not necessarily say, I hate this person, but it might be that, okay, maybe we don't have to spend as much time together, or maybe we just call each other when we have something important to say to each other. Maybe the fact that we talk too much on the phone is the reason why maybe finish is entering our
familiarity breeds contempt.
So maybe it's time for us to, create space with each other. So things like that. And sometimes it's short term, sometimes it's longer term. I've had experiences where, me and somebody that has crossed my boundaries, I've taken a bit of space from them. We've both gone on to grow and develop. And then we find that we have like better interpersonal relationships. And for some, it's just like you would never change. So while I love you, I need my peace. So,
I love you from a distance.
Yeah, I would love you from a distance. Exactly. So, yes.
Amazing. Please let's send in our questions, more questions. Whatever it is that you're not clear about, that you would want to gain clarity about, please send in your question to me. My name on the chat is Gabriela Gabriel, or you can just signify by raising your hand and then you can ask your questions directly. I particularly love that word, you have to stand your ground. You see that standing your ground part? Oh my God. It's not easy because I've experienced it myself. Easy, but if you really want to have to live, like you want to be able to finally breathe, you just have to stand your ground. Like for me, my toughest standing my ground scenario was from my parents. I mean, it was really tough. It was really tough. Like I had to decide when I left the state, I had to decide to not go home for about 2 years. Yes, I did not. And during that 2 years, I was healing. I mean, a lot went over the years. So I was healing and learning techniques and strategies on how to deal with them. So when I finally got to see them, I could better. But when you said stand your ground, I just remembered my own story. And I mean, standing your ground part, it's not easy, but you really want to be able to live your life after that.
Sometimes you can be in a lot of pain while you're standing your ground, but what is important to you is important to you, and you matter. Your well-being matters. Our best work, our best lives come from a place of peace, of joy, of positive well-being. So if you don't have that, what do you really have? So it's important.
Nothing. Yes.
I think someone asked the question, how do you settle with someone you love who doesn't see the relevance to your boundary, but breaking it gives you anxiety? I think it's the response it's very similar to what I've been saying earlier. There's an issue, but there's no issue. The person, if somebody cannot respect your boundaries and you cannot compromise and they cannot compromise, then you have to renegotiate your terms of engagement. You don't we deserve to have beautiful lives. We deserve to have gorgeous lives.
Yeah.
We deserve to have like full, fulfilling lives. We should wake up in the morning.
Definitely.
Yes, and while the complexities of life might come in, I think, and I stand by it all the time, and I reinforce it all the time, that your personal life should be a safe space for you. You should have like friends, family, community that brings you joy. You should not feel like you're going to church, my pastor's wife is going to cross my boundary. I feel like I'm seeing this friend, but they're going to make me a bit anxious. Or how do I control the narrative? And if you feel like this is consistently happening, then it might just be the sign. It might be God It might be God, it might be the universe, it might just be the sign you need to leave that situation alone. And sometimes I understand that we get nervous, especially with friends, because we feel like we might not. I love this person, we've been friends for 10 years, but time is not a measure of respect. You can feel like, oh, will I ever get a friend this good? But things can get better. Things can get better, and things can be great in life. It doesn't, it is exhausting and tiring to feel like life should always be like, okay, I'm happy because I went through pain, or I've gone through so much sufferhead, so now I'm finding restoration. We can just be happy. We can just be happy. We can live like anxiety-free lives. We can have respect. We can have mutual respect. So boundaries don't mean that, like, people should be able to seek your consent in certain things. You should be able to seek the consent of people. Are you okay to talk about this? No, I don't want to talk about it. Cool. And have those mutual relationships. So I feel like I'm talking, and the person is not registering in the person's brain, then maybe it's time to step back, because you can't kill yourself.
Back. Yes, you deserve your peace. Now, someone asked, how early or late is it to set boundaries? And I'm guessing that question, and an addition to that question could be that it's possible that some damage has been done over time, hence the question, but it's okay. So how early or late is it to set boundaries?
I think the earlier, the better when it comes to setting. I think the earlier, the better when it comes to setting boundaries. But if water has passed under the bridge already, it's never too late to set boundaries. So you can always, and you can rescind, you can come back on your boundaries. You can say, see, I did not set boundaries with this now, because you might not have even known that this thing is inappropriate, or this thing will stress me or drain me. And when setting boundaries with people, let's note that we're not terrible people. They are not terrible people. But this is what will improve the quality of my life. And that's what will improve the quality of their life. And it's all very valid. So yes, I'll say if damage has been done, if there's water under the bridge, it's still not too late. If you respect someone and someone respects you, and the relationship is founded on mutual respect, then you should be able to have an open and an honest conversation. If at work, maybe you've been working late since, and now you're realizing I'm having insomnia, it's affecting my well-being, it's affecting my mental health. Or you know what? It doesn't even have to be deep. I just don't want to work late because I want to spend time with my friends, with my family. I want to go for brunch. Then you should have a conversation. You should try and recommunicate it. And we also have to give people space to come to terms with certain things. For example, if I'm type of person that just calls my friends to give an emotional rant, and my friend tells me, look, this thing, I don't like it. If we've been doing this for 5 years, it would also take a while, because people are not machines that we can switch on and switch off. So it will take a while sometimes for people to come to terms with certain things.
Yes.
So it's important to also give people that space. Then, can I shed more light on being assertive? I think being assertive, also, it comes with being willing to be the black sheep. It might sound terrible, but being willing to be a pariah, but standing for what you believe in, and knowing that what you believe in is the right thing for you. That's where it comes from. Being assertive comes from self-love. It comes from self-respect. And being assertive does not necessarily have a negative connotation. It means standing your ground, and it means being okay with not being, yes, exactly, Chinwe, say it even if your voice shakes. It means being okay with, this person might not like me, but they respect me and they respect what I stand for. Your colleague at work my own job description in this company, I'm an engineer. Your own job description, you are the admin officer. Why am I doing so much? You know, so I'm standing my ground now. If it's not within my job description, not within my stretch rules, I'll rather you handle it because that's within your role. So the person might be eyeing you like, you're so annoying, but be willing to be okay with being uncomfortable, I would say.
Yes.
People will come to respect it. The people who love you, who value you, would come to the point where they accept it and
eventually.
And then, yes. And the people who don't will probably just find their way.
Go. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we'll take a few more questions and then we'll be going to a breakout session. So guys, please stay tuned. We'll take a few more questions. The questions so far have been enlightening. And in about 4 minutes, we'll go into a breakout sessions. We have all been assigned to different rooms. Well, let's take a few more questions before we do that. So you may have a question here. It says, considering we are Nigerians, how do we communicate our boundaries to elders? Yes, how do we do that? I mean, you have to considering the respect factor and all of that. And also, another question here says, how do you deal with someone else who allows others to cross their boundaries and then they express their stress on you? How do you deal with that? What can you do in that situation? Yeah, so let me merge those two questions.
I'll take the first question first.
Okay.
I won't lie. As a Nigerian, it's hard. It's very difficult to have your boundaries with elders. And I feel like sometimes Nigerian elders, they have no limits. Like, you don't know which one they'll throw at you. So you might even be like, oh, I'm going to set my boundaries with my elders so that they'll stop asking me, when will you marry? It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me anxious. But the next time you speak to them, when will you marry might not even be their focus area. Their next focus might be, you're too fat, you've gained too much weight. So, you're also now like, okay, I also don't like this person talking about my weight. But I think it still boils down to all the things we've discussed earlier. Being, as sometimes I try to keep it sweet with certain elders that I know that will cross my boundaries. I try to keep it short. So if there are people I communicate with over the phone, and I feel like if I'm having a phone call, I try to just have a text chat giving you information like, hi, good morning, this is happening. I hope you have a lovely day ahead, Pam. I try to control, conversations with them. I try to pace myself with them. And I also think that I try not to be afraid of telling them what I like and what I don't like. And it doesn't, so there are people that you just have to put your foot down and damn the consequences. Sorry for that word. But I also feel like with some other people, there are different approaches. As I mentioned earlier during the talk, it's not set in stone and it's very contextual. So maybe you have an auntie, you like her, she's lovely, but there are certain things she brings up and you don't like, they make you feel sad. You can, if you're having a conversation and it comes up, you can just be like, auntie, you've started, this thing used to pain me and everything. So it's like looking at the context, figuring out which communication style do you want to do. Okay, next, what's the next question?
The next question is the question where you have someone who allows others to cross their boundaries and then they take out the stress on you, they express the stress on you. How do you deal with that?
You just tell them off a job by me. I'm joking. You just tell them what it is. Maybe you have like a sandwich method of a conversation. It might be that the person is just extremely kind and they don't know how to stop. So you can start a conversation highlighting their best qualities to them and then going into where you're like, this is what I don't like and this is how it affects me. And to be very honest, sometimes we're the people that other people are complaining about. we're the ones doing things that, are crossing the boundaries of others. So I think having a very honest and
Conversation.
vulnerable conversation, helping people see their strengths. Okay, what's the last one? Helping people see their strengths, but
Yeah.
also like letting them see their shortcomings and how that impacts you and your well-being.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we'll take the last question. A situation whereby in a past intimate relationship, you realized after the relationship that you compromised your boundaries just because of the relationship, but the relationship didn't work out. How can you recover from such?
Recovering from, a relationship where your boundaries, recovery looks different to every single person. Healing is very different, and healing is not a straight line. It's not linear. It's very complex sometimes. So it's like this. But if I would make any recommendations, I would say talk to a professional, talk to a therapist, talk to a counselor, talk to a coach, talk to somebody. Allow yourself be hurt. Allow yourself be sad. Allow yourself understand that this hurts me. Allow yourself be vulnerable with yourself. If you're gonna cry, cry, but don't keep crying. Like, understand that this hurts me. I shouldn't have allowed this. I shouldn't have taken it. If you're a type of person that is good with processing your thoughts through journaling, journal them. If you have people in your life that you can with, communicate with them. And then after this, think about, okay, what's the pathway to finding myself, and how do I ensure that this doesn't happen again? Is it a me problem? Because sometimes people know that we are crossing our boundaries for them, but they will allow us because it's beneficial to them. And that's why it's important to even have boundaries. So yeah, that's what I would say. I hope I was able to
Okay.
answer your
Thank you,
question.
thank you, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So right about now, we would be going into the breakout rooms. So what are we supposed to do in the breakout rooms? We are going to be there for 20 minutes. And guess what we should do? Engage with your room members, talk about yourselves, get to know yourselves. You can make a new friend. You should make a new friend. Share your ideas, share your highlights of today's training session, exchange ideas. And if you have suggestions as well, you can drop it to your team or to your room member. So the essence of the breakout session is just to bond and let's just exchange ideas. Sometimes how a particular point gets across to me might not be how it gets across to you. So while in your breakout rooms, please, please, please engage with your room members, and I'll see you in 20 minutes. And also, there are you will be receiving an invitation. So just click join.
So please, let's all join the breakout room. Thank you, everyone. All right, let's all join the breakout room. So if we all can just join the breakout room. For those of us that are out, if